Okay.
Welcome back to the British Masters and British Teens preview series. As always, I'm Jason. Joining me today is the head judge for the Teens and Masters competition, Andy McTaggart. Andy, how are you?
Hey, Jason. All good, and yourself?
I'm very well, thank you. I'm really interested to have a conversation with you because it's not going to be me asking what age category are you in, and how do you feel about competing, and are you looking forward to it? Because you've got another role, as we mentioned, you're the head judge, and that's a role that's probably presented some interesting challenges over the last couple of years, because obviously last year the whole competition shifted to a online format. And this year, it's a bit of a mix, right? You're going to have online qualifiers followed by an in-person event. First of all, how is that for you judging these video submissions, by the way?
Well, I think last year was a very steep learning curve for us because we expected to run a live event, then for it to be switched online. And for the first time, I've never done an online competition before. So it's not so much how you watch a video and judge someone back. That's the easy bit. It's the logistics around it. It's then having enough people to be able to watch the video. So it was a very steep learning curve. There's lots of stuff that we've learned from that's allowed us to be better with it this year. But I think I said to Emma sort of after, because we did the qualifiers and the finals online last year, and so much harder than judging a live event. Instead of sort of 3 days of video, 3 days of an event, it's 2 weeks of it.
Now, I imagine that one of the things that can make it challenging is the fact that you have no control over the videos when they're being recorded, right? So you just receive video submissions. So what better time than now, as we're going to have people getting ready for the qualifiers, that we just in a couple of days are going to start filming these workouts, was to get on the head judge and just find out what are your 5 top key points that people need to keep in mind when they are submitting a video for review.
Yeah, so I suppose the first one is read through your workout description, front to back and back to front. So know it inside out. Second of all is make sure who's ever judging you does the same thing. They need to read through it. They need to know it. They need to understand it. Third one, and this one could probably even be right at the top, is get someone who's going to judge you and not just motivate you. So call out the no reps, tell you when you need to go deeper in a squat, whatever it might be. Get someone who is going to be a judge. Fourth one is real simple. It's just watch your video back before you load it up. Just watch it yourself. And then the last one, because people can get really intense when it comes to these competitions, especially with it being online, is you just got to have fun doing it. If you can do that, it becomes a whole lot less stressful, and you're probably going to be able to enjoy the experience.
Excellent. Well, I feel like we need to unpack these a little bit further then. So breaking down these tips then. So the number one you said was to read the instructions front to back and back to front. So I mean, when you're saying the instruction, is that just the workout? Is that the movement standards? Are there instructions as to where you need to position your camera, for example?
So what Emma Dean's done really well this year, and this is like where we talk about learning off the back of last year, is our workout descriptions were pretty good. The rule book was also pretty good. But this year she's taken it to a whole nother level where they've actually suggested, much like CrossFit's done, is suggested how to position your camera so that not necessarily for the athlete's benefit, but it makes it easier for the judge. So yeah, I would say, and again, a simple thing like with the workout description, I'll share a story from last year. We had, and there was handstands, and there was a measurement where you have to sort of do your forearm, do a line and stuff like that. And you have to show us doing it. You have to, the athlete actually has to show them doing it. And essentially what happened on 2 or 3 videos is that the athletes submitted their videos, but they forgot to show us that.
Right.
Now, unfortunately, in a situation like that, I have no idea whether or not they're telling the truth. And I have to go on what the rules are. And an athlete like that would receive a major penalty. This year with the handstands, the rules are slightly different, which will make our lives a little bit easier. But it's just little things like that, or not even showing us the weights that you have on the bar.
Right.
So yeah, I always did it as myself as an athlete, as I read through the workout description, made sure I knew it back to front. Because the other side, it like when we work out, sometimes you'll be doing a workout and you forget something. And that's literally after reading the whiteboard 5 minutes ago.
Yeah. Position yourself near the whiteboard so you could constantly check throughout the workout how many reps it was because you've forgotten. It's like we've trained together, Andy. This is crazy.
I think every CrossFit gym, it's the same. I know when I coach, I can read through a workout and 5 minutes later, hands go up, and I've got to say this whole thing all over again.
So the second point is similar to the first, but it's to make sure that your judge has also read through the workout front and back, forwards and back, back to front, whatever it may be, upside down. I don't know. Why is it so important then for your? I mean, these are leading questions. I feel like I know the answer, but Andy, why is it so important that your judge has also read very well the rules regarding the movements, the setup, etc., etc.?
I think we all know this. When we get into a workout, we're so focused on what we're doing that sometimes we can forget. Forget what movement we need to go to, as an example, or where there's tie break times. The judge has that workout description in front of them, and too often we see these, more so with the teens sometimes, is that who's ever judging the teens is they want them to do well, so there's lots of motivation. But like anyone who's done the judge's course online, the judge is not a motivator. You're there to count reps and you're there to enforce movement standards. And the big thing for me, and this will lead on to point 3 at the same time, where the judge needs to know the movement standards, know the workout description, is because they have a responsibility to hold their athlete accountable to those movement standards. They can direct the athlete to where they need to go. They can give them that little warning. For example, if they're doing wall balls, when we watch it online, if an athlete does one wall ball where they haven't hit depth, we're not going to know rep them for that. But if the next 20 are all at the same depth, which isn't below parallel, then we know rep them. All it takes is that judge who's there, because they know the rules and they're going to enforce them, is to call their athlete out and help them out. Makes our life a hell of a lot easier when they've got someone who is actually judging.
Yeah, I guess that's where, especially again with like teens, probably it happens more often that it's inspiring, right, to watch these young ones really throw down and push themselves and hit this workout as hard as they can, and you want to encourage them and you want to cheer them on, and it's almost like, I don't want to no rep them, that was so close, it was more or less a rep. And you maybe feel you're doing a good thing for them because you're kind of there, they're going to have a better time, right? It's going to be a better finish.
Yeah.
But ultimately, how are they going to feel when they get told, well, actually, half these reps didn't count, so you've had incurred a huge time penalty? That judge is no longer like the hero that that saved them, right? They're actually, you think, well, if you'd called me out on rep 1 or 2, those next 20 reps would have been okay. But because you let it slide on rep 1 and 2, you let it slide all the way to rep 20, kind of thing.
Yeah, Jason. I mean, that hits the nail on the head. It's not so much with the adults, but I remember watching some of the teen stuff through, and it is inspiring because these teens are giving it 110%, and it's there's a particular one that came to mind. There was handstand walks, and the ruling on the handstand walk was that your hands have to stop behind the line. Not on the line, not in front of the line, behind the line. And there was one young kid who just managed to get over the 5 meter marker every time. But every time he kicked up, his hands were over the line. And I think I had to give him a major penalty, 15% of his time. And he was in a position to qualify for the finals. And I remember sending the email through. And the email actually went to a parent. And I got a response back, not saying no to the penalty, but how it was really harsh and that he's worked so hard. And we tried to be empathetic with stuff like that. But, you know, the point I wanted to make was, well, ultimately their judge needed to call him out on that. And the second thing is we have some really good teens in the UK. You know, a good example is Reece Mitchell has come through this. Yeah. And there's a lot of youngsters who are going to be in the same place. I think there's Ed Cook is another one who's done really well this year. If we're not teaching these teens in a simple competition like ours how to uphold movement standards, then what's going to happen when they go onto bigger things? So it's not just a case of, you know, yes, we want it to be a level playing field across the board, but if we're going to let things slip and slide now, then they're going to expect it later on. And every kid in there is working as hard as they can. But the simple thing is, those are the rules and they need to follow them. And that's why it comes back to the judge. A lot of the judges that we saw were family members, which was tough for them because of COVID. Or sometimes it was a coach. And coaches, when they judge, can have their coach's hat on and forget that, you know what, actually we need to make sure that these athletes do everything by the book, because then it's going to give them the right experience at the end of the day. Yeah,
I guess, as you said, last year people were very limited, weren't they? Because again, even who, you know, even restricted in like how many people you could have around you, and you know, if they weren't in your family, like different times in the year, it was even, you know, it was literally immediate family, and that's basically it, right? Or the people you're living with. Hopefully this year that, you know, there's a little bit more freedom to interact with people. Definitely getting an impartial judge is going to be the key, right? So you need somebody who knows the movement standards, is going to judge you well, and ideally is not, you know, obviously they want you to do well, but they're not somebody that's got I don't say a vested interest, but it's not mum or dad or your coach, or just somebody that obviously maybe almost subconsciously ignores certain things just because they're cheering you on. Even if they're not cheering, they're cheering inside, and that could kind of be a problem.
I think sometimes, and look, I've been there, not so much when at sanctions and stuff, but more like in local box during the Open, is you've got an athlete who's trying really well and you're just worried about knocking their motivation. Like, I think that's what it comes down to is, you know, they just want the best for their athletes. And, you know, if it's a CrossFit Open and you've got someone in there who's doing their very first Open, there's no chance of them qualifying. Doesn't matter whether or not they're in depth on the wall ball, doesn't matter. But when that person has a chance of going through to the finals, whole different story.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we need to remember with this.
Yeah. And I think that the point you made earlier about the fact that, you know, if you let it slide now, what happens when you get to that brighter spotlight, that bigger stage? And, you know, speaking to a number of the athletes that we've had on the preview series, some of them, you know, not some of them, many of them, that is their goal, right? And we even have like Chiara, she's qualified, she's going to the games. You know, Reece has obviously been. I know Ed and Tom, like speaking with them, they've got these goals, and they're not a million miles away. They're really, you know, some have already achieved it, and some are really close. Yeah. And that would be a shame, right? That's the thing that cost you your ticket to the games, is just because you got into the habit of things being allowed to slide. And now they're not. Now they're under the microscope. Like that would be devastating. I think that's a good point. I hadn't thought about that, but absolutely, that makes perfect sense. What was the fourth tip?
I think my fourth one was watching videos back.
Yes.
This one brings back, like I said, I remember watching one of the videos and I had to either, I think, laugh, or sometimes I'd phone Emma up and I'd just be like, I don't know how to handle this. Because I'll give you an example. There was a workout that required burpees over the bar.
Right.
So we could see, I think there was, I can't remember what the movement was, bar was going overhead. So we could see that. But then when it came to the burpees over the bar, literally, I kid you not, all I could see on the video was the individual's head on either side of the bar.
Right.
And it's just like, you haven't watched the video back. the point is that if you watch your video back, you're going to see what the judge sees.
Yeah.
And if you're making it difficult to see your chest to bars, for example, well, it's going to be difficult for the judge to see. And I think that's a real simple one for people to do, is watch it back. Imagine you're a judge, be impartial, and say, well, would you be able to judge that?
If it was me, and it's not me, I'm not competing, leave me alone, everybody. But if it was me, I probably would set up, record, and do like a few reps, kind of as a like mini round with reduced reps. Watch that, just check that, yeah, everything you can see everything that needs to be seen, and then do the workout, because I don't want to do the workout and then watch the video back and realize I now have to do it again.
Yeah, 100%. And that comes back to, like, one of the subtle difficulties we had last year was when people are rowing, it's really difficult if they've got stuff added in to be able to see their calories on the rower.
Right.
So, we make two suggestions to the athletes. One is to use, I think it's WOD-proof to video to link to the rower, so it shows on their video the calories that they're doing.
Right.
The second one is to use a second phone.
Yeah.
To video it. And again, that's all done there because, we need to see what's going on. It's not like the Open where if someone's judging you, they're going to be a CrossFit certified judge. So it's just looking at the stuff, and again, it comes back to make sure you have enough space on your phone. Make sure that the phone is charged. Turn it on to airplane mode. All these simple things that we might forget. Another big one, and probably a good point to add on this, is music, because YouTube can be very difficult with. If you load a video up, if it's
copyright striking music, basically, yeah,
exactly. So super easy if you take the music off. I don't mean the athlete has to do the workout and suffer in silence. That's just mean. But that's another thing. That was a huge problem we had last year. So hopefully what we're seeing is a lot of people are returning from last year, and this will be stuff that they'll remember and they will have learned from. But yeah, that would be another thing just to keep an eye out when it comes to their videos and when they upload them. It's just the copyrights of certain music.
Yeah. So the fifth and final point was basically to have a good time, right? To relax, to enjoy it.
Yeah. I mean, I think a couple of times we sometimes forget why we're doing things, and I know there's a lot of when people get into competitions, they can get sort of laser focused. This is what they need to do, and they're going to do whatever they like. They're just going to go really hard about it. But I don't see what's the point of doing something if you're not going to enjoy yourself. And I had a really cool experience last year in the qualifiers with two gentlemen from, I think it was CrossFit Colchester. One of them was actually the owners. And I watched the videos back, and it was the very first workout. And I watched them back, and I'm like, I'm going to have to no-rep these guys. They were going so fast. I think there was handstand push-ups, front squats, burpees over the bar, and they were both going to get major penalties. And they were my first sort of email that was going out for someone to be penalized. And I was just sitting there waiting for the response back, because like these guys were competitive. And I got a really nice email back from them saying, cool, Andy, yeah, totally agree with that. We pushed the boundaries, we had to have fun, we had to work out, we appreciate what you and the guys are doing. And that, that's why we do what we do. Like, giving up time to run a CrossFit competition or to host it, if you've spoken to Emma and Mandy, it's tough work. But then the rewards that you see for us are watching athletes do things that they didn't think they could, or even, you get emails back from people like that who, they're just there to have a good time and work out and be involved in stuff again. And particularly when we move down towards sort of the teens, again, it comes back to this stuff should be fun for them, because if it isn't fun, they get to 15, 16 and they drop off the radar because they haven't enjoyed the process. They haven't enjoyed the competitions for whatever reason, be it that they've had to be no rep by the head judge who they don't think is particularly nice, whatever it might be. But we need to make sure that, you know, we want a fun competition. And so I think the guys need to take it with that approach as well.
I guess, you know, from that experience you mentioned of those two athletes, you know, if you do get that email, because you've mentioned different experiences of having to send out this email, and there are people that take it really hard, and there are people that kind of take it as a, yeah, you're right, it was a no rep, but, you know, still had a good time. If you're not having a good time and you get that email, then it's devastating, right? Because I wasn't enjoying it. I was just doing it for this and just pushing, and now I've been no rep. Versus, well, it was a good time, I had a good experience. Yeah, a bit annoying about getting that no rep. Don't like Andy very much, but anyway, life goes on. I think you're a brave man, Andy, taking on this job because I imagine sometimes you're not everybody's favorite person at these competitions, but the way you spin it here, you know, you really sell it as it's an important thing, right? This is the upholding the standards. This is teaching you those lessons. And as you said, maybe things go wrong, but learn the lesson next time, whether it's for the British Masters Teens Championships, whether it's your qualifiers for the games, the European Championship, whatever you may be going for. Like, these are going to be lessons that are going to carry over, aren't they?
I think, like we said it a couple of times through this, and Emma and I actually spoke a lot about this through my involvement, because I think this is now my third year as head judge, is particularly with the teens, if we can help develop them, not necessarily as athletes, because that's not our job, but if we can help develop them in terms of how they go about going to competitions, how they prep for them, then we're doing a really good thing, because this ultimately, and we've alluded to it a couple of times, is it's a stepping stone for so many of our youngsters going to the next level.
Andy, I have taken far too much of your time, but this was a longer conversation than we'd planned. But a really interesting one, and hopefully people watching this will, you know, take those tips on board, and you know, hopefully not only will they have fun and a good competition, this might have made your life easier. We don't know. Time will tell.
Yeah, I suppose one thing I forgot to add is, obviously on the morning when the workouts get announced, we are going to do a live Zoom, myself and Emma, with any of the athletes who want to jump on.
Right.
We'll talk about the workout descriptions. We'll talk all the stuff that they're going to cover in the next 3 days. So if they can jump on that, please do so. I think Emma will send out the details to them. If they can't get onto it, we're going to record it, so they can watch it back. So I suppose that's top tip number 6.
Top tip number 6. We've snuck that one in at the end.
Yeah, we snuck that one. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, thank you once again, Andy. Thank you everyone for watching this. All the best, everybody, with the competition, and I look forward to seeing as many of you as possible. Well, I say as many as possible. It's going to be a limited number in Southampton, but hopefully you watching this, you'll be one of them. I'll see you there in Southampton. So take care, everyone. Have a good time, and look forward to seeing you all at the British Teens and Masters Championship.